r/AskReddit by LaughWithMEmes. What is legal that you think should be illegal? Lawmakers exempting themselves from the laws they make. Oh man, as a South African, this is a big problem here. But at least your politicians are great at math. Child beauty pageants. That shit is just plain sinister. I think Europe already banned it. The parents of these children are crazy to hypersexualize their own child like that. In the UK at least it's still alive and well. My mate's missus is pushing all 3 kids through them every weekend. I refuse to go along and show support, it's just too weird to see an 8-year-old slapped up. Paparazzi. It's legalized stalking. FR like somebody's daughter died last year BC of the fkin paparazzi. Diana? Private prisons. This was a bullshit idea. Justice and incarceration should not be a business. The whole idea of keeping government from running things has a major downside in the US. Companies and lobbyists running government way too much of the time. Aftermarket headlights that are so bright that you can see into next week, blinding every other driver on the road. I have good dark vision, and these things blind you. If I can see my car's shadow in front of me, where my lights are. Actually where I live they are illegal, but it isn't enforced. Drug companies advertising directly to consumers. This seems to be a very US thing, by which I mean those ads that list every possible health effect in medical science. Pretty sure in the UK it is illegal to do this, though there are some exceptions, typical over-the-counter stuff like Nurofen. It's illegal in the majority of countries. I believe it's only legal in the US and Papua New Guinea. Insulin costing $300. Colorado is trying to help with this. Colorado insulin bill will put a cap of $100 per month cap on insulin co-payments starting next year. Not perfect, but it's going to help a lot of people. Could we cap all medications at $100 unless they can prove there's a good reason to charge more? That in more than half of the states in the US, if a woman is raped, gets pregnant, and decides to keep the baby, the rapist then can get custody and visitation rights. And the corollary. Forcing male victims of rape to pay child support to their rapist. Sirens, horns or other traffic sounds being in songs or commercials on the radio. My dad was a US Marine. They played a missile sound effect on the radio once, and it got him in a car crash. Releasing the picture/details of people accused of crimes before they are convicted. Lives are ruined by police mistakes/false charges. Well, Reddit did this once. We did it, Reddit. We saved the city. For politicians to lie. I know this is practically impossible to adjudicate, but if a parley is caught having misled people for private gains, examples in Australia are rife. From one nation pushing firearm legislation to Barnaby Joyce's Watergate, they should be fined to the goddamn gills and removed from politics for the rest of their lives. There are few things more damaging to society than corrupt politicians. I can't understand how the norm is that these politicians and media experts don't suffer any consequences. Here in the US, all the liars and scumbags that did things like push the Iraq war, claiming WMDs, are still regular pundits appearing on shows and handing out their sage advice like there isn't the blood of tens of thousands of innocent lives on their hands. And if anyone is wondering, the guy that's in my mind right now is Bill Kristol, who I believe was just on MSNBC and was, you guessed it, pushing another war. He's one example of hundreds of media figures and politicians who get away with this regularly though. Leaving the goddamn shopping cart in a fucking parking space. In Finland we have a solution to this. The carts are connected with chains to each other, and you need to insert a coin into the cart to detach the chain. You get the coin back when you connect the chain to the cart. Usually this works because people want their coin back. It's like that in some places in the US too, or at least I've seen it. Not sure if any of my local stores do it anymore. I think people were more lazy than caring about a quarter. Police seizure, aka civil forfeiture. The police anywhere across the US *see edit can literally just take your property, cash, vehicles, homes even, if they suspect it was involved with a crime. Note that all they need to do is suspect you of a crime. They don't need to charge you with a crime. They don't need a warrant. They don't need to follow any rules of due process. Your property is now just owned by the police department. On top of that, the system is notoriously flawed and weighted heavily in the benefit of the police. Unlike when criminal charges are brought against the person and the burden of proof rests on the prosecution, in cases of civil forfeiture the burden of proof rests with the owner to prove that their property was not used in any criminal activity, a process that is usually heavily obscured in red tape, essentially guaranteed to end up gridlocked, a cynical person might say intentionally gridlocked, in bureaucracy. Unless you have substantial funds to hire a legal team or you have political clout. Again, note that the important factor here is that law enforcement does not need to prosecute, charge you with a crime, or even obtain a warrant in order to seize your property. It would make sense and even be reasonable to seize property after it was proven in a court of law that the property was involved in a crime, but that's not how the system works, and that's what makes it ripe for abuse. Saved up all your money to buy a nice car and have the police find an 1/8 ounce of weed in your car? That car's now going be for all intents and purposes the property of some police captain. Run a mostly cash small business and get pulled over while driving to the bank to make a deposit? All that cash is now funding the militarization of your local police department, since there's no way an innocent person could possibly be carrying around that much cash unless they were a criminal. Your son sold a small amount of weed to a friend at your house. Your house now belongs to the police department, especially if you happen to have a nice house in a highly desirable neighborhood. Those examples may sound ridiculous, but they are actual cases of police seizure that have happened in the US. AskReddit, correction. There are 4 states, court, Mount, NC, NE, that require a conviction before seizure, 1 state that has outlawed all police seizure, NM, and 3 states that require evidence beyond a reasonable doubt for seizure, CA, FL, we. This is one of the most insane civil liberty issues we have in the US, in my opinion. It is outright seizing of property without due process and needs to be banned federally. Towing cars needs to be far more regulated. Look up the laws in your state. It generally is very regulated, and scummy tow truck operators will intentionally violate the law. One example, in New York, a tow truck operator needs signed written permission from the property owner with the license plate of the vehicle to be removed before they are allowed to tow a vehicle. Bankers bankrupting their banks and getting bailed out by taxpayers instead of having to face the consequences like every other individual would have to. Basically, they have a free card. If they fuck up, it's no problem, because we will bail them out. If not, they are happy and keep the billions they made to buy a fancy yacht. FCK those people. Child marriages. Only 2 US states have laws that state you have to be 18. Other states have laws where you only need 1, or both depending on state, parents' permission to marry at any age. Then it is nearly impossible to get a divorce until they are 18, because they are minors, which is just ironic. Kicking people off of health insurance because they get diagnosed with something like a tumor or ADHD because it's a pre-existing condition. What the hell is health insurance for if you can't treat conditions like that? Airlines overbooking. I get that there are no shows and that can cost the airline business, but something about it seems so sleazy to me. Apparently Virginia Tech has taken up the practice too. This year they admitted 1,000 more students than they had the dorm space for, and tried to offer deferred admission in exchange for paying for tuition, but a lot of students rightfully earned their admission and aren't willing to wait a couple years to go to college, so now the university is being forced to pay to put them up in hotels for a full year. Paparazzi being able to take photos of celebrities' kids. The kids have not signed up for anything. With that stated, to go along with that law, celebrities not being able to do magazine spreads or post photos of their children online under 16 without their consent. Edit, kids, because some dumbasses can't read edit too. People, bet all Americans, cannot seem to read the title of the post either. Politicians and political parties taking large donations from companies, wealthy businessmen, lobby groups etc. Donations should all be made through a registered government department and be strictly limited to $1,000 per individual per year, with the politician/political party only receiving the money without any indication of who made it. Companies exaggerating the features of their products, that is a cleaning agent that instantly turns your dirty tiles perfectly white, or only telling the peak numbers, car does 20th miles per gallon in super controlled environment, or making the product look better than it does in real life. Frozen food, for example. Any kind of thing like this is false advertisement in my mind and should be illegal. Please like and subscribe for more. This is Laugh with Mims. Goodbye.